That night, my mum cooked yam for dinner, and we all ate in silence. Afterward, my dad began arranging things so we could settle in and sleep. He set up a bed for my mum, while laying a mat beside them for my sister and me. But I couldn't stop thinking about the children I had seen earlier. Their laughter echoed in my mind, growing louder with every second. Curiosity gnawed at me, so I decided to ask my dad about the top floor. When I asked, he sighed and told me it was empty. The landlord wasn't renting it out because it wasn't finished yet. But I saw children there today, I said, my voice trembling. My dad dismissed me with a wave of his hand. I'm sure I did, Dad, I insisted, trying to convince him. But before he could answer, my mum snapped, Amber, you've only been here one day and already you've been snooping around where you shouldn't. I knew that if I pushed any further, I'd be in for a scolding or worse, a beating. So I decided to drop it and let the sleeping dog lie. My mum wasted no time going to bed, but my dad stayed up to entertain us. He put on my mother's gown and stuffed clothes under it, mimicking her pregnant belly. We couldn't stop laughing at his little performance. It was all fun and games until the lights suddenly went out. The room fell into pitch darkness, the laughter dying in our throats. My dad lit a lantern, glanced at his phone, and told us it was late. It was time for bed. As the dim lantern flickered and began to fade, I realized there wasn't much kerosene left. The darkness crept in, thicker and heavier, until the room was swallowed by it. My dad and sister's soft snores filled the air, but sleep was the furthest thing from my mind. Then, the noise started again. Laughter. That same eerie, childlike laughter I had heard earlier. But this time, it was closer. It wasn't coming from the floor above. No, it was right here. In the room with us. My heart raced as I pulled the blanket over my head, trying to hide from whatever it was. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing the sound to go away, and somehow, I drifted into a restless sleep. That night, I had the worst nightmare. I found myself standing in front of a rusty, old door, frozen in place. My body wouldn't move, even though I wanted to run. Then I heard it, a child sobbing. But I couldn't see anyone. The voice grew desperate, pleading with me to let her out. Please, let me out. My heart pounded as I bent down, grabbing a small stone and hitting the thick chains that bound the door. It was useless, like throwing water on a rock. The voice became more persuasive, almost hypnotic. It whispered in my ear, controlling me, urging me to keep going. I struck the chains again and again, screaming in frustration as they finally began to bend. Just when I thought I could break through, I felt something cold wrap around my arm. A hand. It yanked me backward, and I woke up with a gasp. It was morning. Good morning, Mum, I muttered, staring at her face, but something felt off. There was a darkness in her eyes, something unsettling lurking just beneath the surface.